According to UN documents, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and U.S. law, the deployment to Macedonia required congressional approval. To avoid obtaining congressional approval, the White House either deliberately or accidentally misled Congress about the technical nature of the deployment. Colonel Ron Ray suggests that this illegal deployment to Macedonia may be an impeachable offense, which was preceded by a deliberate effort to deceive Congress. More than 40 U.S. congressmen have asked President Clinton to square his orders with the Constitution and military regulations. He is apparently as incapable of this as were Michael New's immediate superiors, who told the young soldier to figure it out for himself.
And this whole thing started when I first expressed my reservations about wearing this United Nations insignia and accoutrements. When I expressed my reservations, they said, I think you need to do a little more study on the United Nations, their history and objectives, and see what they actually are, because we don't think they're a foreign power or foreign government like you say they are. So I did some study, and my study tends to indicate that they are a foreign power and a foreign government. Although they don't have a landmass per se, they still have all the elements that a government needs to have. They have a ruler and a governing body, the Secretary General, General Assembly, Security Council. They have a treasury and a banking system. They have courts and a legal system. They have an array of bureaucratic agencies. They have a flag, an oath of allegiance, a charter. They don't have a tax yet, but that is in the workings. They're proposing a global tax. And the last thing that they're missing is a military force. And that's what they're trying to make me.
New's independent research also revealed other disturbing goals of the United Nations, described in its charter in chapters 5 and 7, which speak in hopeful terms about the day when the military force of the international order will be so strong that no single nation can challenge or resist its will, or its peace enforcers. The oath of the UN requires that UN bureaucratic officials swear allegiance to a one-world government and must reject the sovereign claims and all the interests of their own nation and obey no laws except those of the United Nations. Michael New swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to obey the orders of his American superiors according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It is this phrase in the oath that reminds all officers and politicians that they can order only what is permitted by law. This phrase keeps America a government of laws, not of men. Why is it that all Army communication excludes this phrase when discussing the oath taken by Michael New? Are the armed forces planning to recruit and keep only men and women who blindly obey every order?
They used to teach the Constitution in the Army back during all the way up to the 30s, I think. And nowadays they don't teach you that in basic training or AIT. If they do, it's very brief. You don't do any in-depth studies. We just basically cover the laws of land warfare and that type of thing. But I think soldiers should be better educated about their own government.
If you read the 1990 edition of the Army's Military Leadership Manual, it's clear that the Army at least used to teach and adhere to the same kind of things that Daniel and Suzanne New adhered to in the upbringing of their son. Article 92, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, says that soldiers are under a duty to obey lawful orders of the seniors appointed over them. The heart of this issue will be whether or not the order given was a legal order. Article 92 also says that patently illegal orders are not to be obeyed. Now obviously this is measured under time and circumstances, and in the heat of combat you certainly don't want to have soldiers questioning the orders of the seniors appointed over them. But the principle that comes down through military law that was really codified in the Nuremberg trials is that soldiers have a duty to disobey illegal orders. In other words, it is no defense later on if you're prosecuted for a war crime or other crime. You may not defend yourself successfully by saying, I was ordered by senior officers to do what I did.
What we have here is a young man who has stood on principle, not for personal gain, against a nebulous and amorphous policy which the Army is incapable of explaining 3 or 4 months after it has been challenged. What the specialist knew is a young man who is refreshing in as much as he stands on principle. He believes something and he's willing to take a stand for it. And I must stress that this is not a soldier who's trying to avoid sleeping in the rain and rolling in the mud and being tired and hungry, doesn't want to deploy. To the contrary, he wants to deploy, but he wants to do it as an American, not as a United Nations minion for Boutros Ghali.
Here they come. Mr. Gray will make a statement. There you go.
Good. That the order that was given to specialists knew during early October 1995 is an illegal order. And historically, there's never been a court-martial of an American soldier who expressed his reluctance to wear the uniform of a foreign government. And,
News attorneys had few resources, but in the days preceding the trial, they accumulated a mountain of historic, legal, Army, constitutional, congressional, and United Nations evidence that proved Michael New had been right in his hesitancy to obey an order that was dangerously illegal. When the Army admitted that the UN uniform was unauthorized by Congress, it was clear that New had not disobeyed a lawful order. What then shocked many observers was the judge's sudden and unprecedented ruling that none of the evidence of the illegality of the order could be presented at the trial. Furthermore, the judge instructed the military jury that they could not entertain the idea that the order was illegal. Thus, Michael New was disgraced with a conviction of bad conduct. According to the Washington Times, the conviction is a stain that will stick with him long after he leaves the Army, hurting his chances for employment and locking him out of veterans' benefits. Most importantly to New, it grossly misrepresents his record of uncommon good conduct.